oh man, these cards are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. A single card just sold for like $20,000-$40,000. That means that my cards are gonna be priceless in the future. In the future. The year is 2050 and Antiques Roadshow is here for all the discoveries being made in Brettonwood, New Hampshire. And we have a special treat for you guys today. Today we have Todd here who wants to show off his graded anime titties collection from years ago.
This is from the golden age of illustration though, and it's masterful.
That's a great $20 investment.
Oh my goodness. Alright, so today's topic is going to be confirmation bias, and we're going to be covering why it's so dangerous when it comes to collecting and investing in collectibles and trading card games. And in order for us to understand confirmation bias, we first have to understand the definition of it. And the definition of confirmation bias is the tendency for us to search for, interpret, and recall information in a way that supports what we already believe in. And here are some examples of what confirmation bias is. And the first one that we see is not seeking out objective facts. So what being objective means is that when you're examining something or you're trying to do a study on something, you're not trying to put your own personal viewpoints, your own personal opinions on it, and you're just trying to examine something for what it is. And the remaining ones are pretty self-explanatory, and they're pretty much the same thing, like interpreting information that supports your own existing beliefs. So when you read things, you only choose to see what you want to see, right? Which kind of is the same thing as the remaining two, which is like only remembering details that uphold your beliefs, as well as ignoring information that challenges your belief. Again, going back to only seeing what you want to see. If anyone else says anything otherwise, then you're just going to completely ignore it because it just goes against what you think. And going back to this previous illustration, I think this really explains it very well, where we tend to rather listen to reassuring lies as opposed to just listening to inconvenient truths. Meaning, I'd rather someone lie to me and tell me that I'm the smartest person in the world, and even though I know it's not true, and I know that maybe I'm the dumbest person in the world, right? Because it feels good for someone to tell me something that, makes me feel good, and it's something I'd rather believe in instead. And before I tie back to why confirmation bias is very, very dangerous when it comes to collecting and investing in collectibles and trading cards, I first want to go back to the more finance side of things and something I want to share. If you never invested before, whenever you're looking at anything regarding to investments, this is one term that you'll see all the time, and it's a disclosure here that you'll see. In anything related to investments, when you see any kind of advertisements, commercials, on the bottom, or you'll hear someone say, investing in securities involves risks, and there's always potential of losing money when you invest in securities. And this is the most important part. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. And if you do a Google search and you look up any sort of investment and you just look up any sort of advertisements, you'll see this term and something similar to this put up there because it's required by law and it's required by regulations that you put this in any sort of advertising material or whenever you speak to a client and you make any sort of suggestion or financial advice. And this is because you have to tell people that whenever you look at past performance, you can't use that to indicate any sort of future predictions because no one has a crystal ball. I can't tell you that, if you bought Amazon back then, you would have made a bazillion bingo bucks now and you'd be rich, right? So in the same sense, if you bought, stock in peanut butter panda puffs now, same thing's gonna happen just like Amazon. And when I tie this concept back to collectibles and trading card games, you can see why this is a very dangerous mindset to have when these people look at Charizards, Magic the Gathering, the Black Lotuses, and the Power Nines, and they use this same kind of thought process when they think, oh man, it happened to these, so the same thing's gonna happen to all these holy grail type cards now, right? And when I showed you that Antiques Roadshow skit, that's pretty much what these people think that, 30 years from now, that 100% this is what's going to happen, right? But in reality, it could pretty much turn out like this instead. So yeah, I bought these cards for like $20,000 in 2022, and I'm expecting like a valuation of maybe $1 million. Hey, get a load of this, Steve. He paid $20,000 for anime titties. Wait, can we even show this on TV? Should we censor it or something? Who wants to tell the guy that it's worthless? I don't want to be the one. Wait, what? What do you mean I can't even sell it for what I bought it for? Oh my god! Oh Jesus! And I'm not dumb enough to not be able to see that these views are actually kind of very biased, but I'm going to use some data to support why I feel that it is very dangerous right now on how a lot of these cards that have been released in the recent few years, especially when it comes to markets like Weiss Schwarz and a lot of these like sealed products where people are speculating and, you know, pretty much roping people into these investments when it seems very, very, very dangerous on their mindset on how things can only go up. And first, we'll use the data of time and these already established type of holy grails from years past. And we'll use the Black Lotus and the Charizard as an example. The Black Lotus was around the year 1993, and the Charizard base set first edition was in 1999. And I did a quick math on the calculator, and you'll see that 1999 was 23 years ago, and 1993 for the Black Lotus was almost 30 years ago. Alright, so don't shoot me, I'm not like a Magic the Gathering expert, but based on what I've found online on the wiki, when it came to the release time of the Black Lotus back then, it was roughly around between a couple $100 to maybe $1,000 on the secondary market. And then when it came to the Charizard base first edition, I know back then I remember going through magazines and seeing that they were roughly around, also around the same, between like $100 to like $200-300. And you have to remember, right, back then it wasn't crazy like how, oh, everything's all about grading. People were like just like tossing their cards into decks. There wasn't this concept of like, oh man, if I grade my card, then it's like it's a bazillion bingo bucks and it's gonna be going to the moon if I grade it and be like 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the value. And without going into it too deep first, think about this logically. The Charizard is almost 20 years old, and the Black Lotus is almost 30 years old. And these cards, like the alpha ones, the oldest ones are going for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, right? $50,000. And then you have the non-first edition ones that are betas or whatever it is. And these are also 20, 30 years old. And they're going for a fraction of that price for maybe a couple $1,000s or less. Think about that first. And we'll disregard the fact that franchises like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering have been around for 20, 30 years. And they do have that large fan base. And again, I want you to just keep in mind that, you know, anime and Weiss Schwarz in general is a very, very niche market, right? And then we'll look at the actual release dates of some of these sets. Like ReZero was in 2018. And then in 2017, you have like, you know, Attack on Titans and whatnot. So these were all like 2015. These were all like, you know, between the most generously recent 10 years or so. And when you put that into perspective, you'll kind of understand why it seems a little bit ridiculous that, let's just say, a set like the Bunny Girl Senpai, where people keep talking about it, and this was released in 2019. That was like 3 years ago. Or back to my favorite example of, I just find this so stupid, the Roxy card going for $1,700, and this was released in 2022, literally less than a month ago. And then you have people grading some of these cards, and they're going for a PSA 10, and you have to remember, again, right, going back to history, cards were never graded 20, 30 years ago, and they weren't kept in good condition, whereas literally every single person that's opening all these packs right now, buying up all of these cards, every single one of these cards are being graded, being kept in pristine mint condition. You even see people opening these packs. They're like lubing up their hands and wearing gloves when they open these packs. So realize that These people are trying to use past history on Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, on how all these sealed products were worth a bazillion bingo dollars. And going back to my previous videos about the demographic of the people that collected these, everyone that's collecting right now is the same age range between 18 to 35. And we're the same people that were in the generation growing up that was collecting Pokemon, all that back then. So we have that nostalgia for those products, right? So we're basing our idea of, okay, this is going to be worth a lot of money when later on people are going to think back and want to buy whatever came out right now. That's a very, very, very dangerous mindset to have. So if you're buying these things right now and it's because you're taking the advice of these people that are stonks investing, you should realize that these people are not investing. They're gambling and they're making assumptions. And again, going back to even real investments, you don't make assumptions based on past predictions, especially when it comes to a fickle market like collectibles, which is heavily based on nostalgia. So I'm going to go back to the topic of talking about confirmation bias, right? I just wanted to give a little bit of data just to support why I think this viewpoint that everything is stonks and how highly priced some of these cards are, like the Birdcage, Yukina, all these other cards, like, oh, people keep trying to say how this Mai is like, oh, now this is the new market price for the Mai of $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. So with these graphics on the screen, I think it'll put it into a little bit more of a perspective where we're being objective about it and we're not including any sort of personal biases like, oh, you know what, we're very passionate about certain series, we really like how certain card arts look or whatever it is, right? We like collecting what we collect, but at the same time, when it comes to confirmation bias, we surround ourselves with other people that feel the same way, right? So other people that also feel like, oh man, these cards are valued this much. You know what? You're right. You know what? Yeah, this is how much it's worth. And then you'll notice, once again, I'm going back to when it comes to a lot of these high dollar cards, they do not move. Most of these sales, once again, over and over and over, and you could do the research yourself on eBay or whatever it is, the sales are very, very limited and under like 10 when it comes to these high dollar cards, especially with a niche market, specifically like Weiss Schwarz. And you have to realize that the people that are buying it are the same people that are going to constantly comment about it, constantly praise it, constantly showing it off, constantly shilling it, constantly circle jerking other people that bought it for these prices, because they're just confirming their own beliefs that this is what it's valued at, despite the fact that when I gave you all these other information about other, categories of games like Magic the Gathering and, Pokemon, that historically, how does it make sense that cards that are recently released in the past couple years are going to be worth as much as cards that were released 20, 30 years ago, when the conditions don't even match at all, as well as how everyone takes care of these cards, as well as the actual demand for these cards are not the same at all. So just remember, I remind people over and over and over again. I just kind of like beat you over the head with it. I'll say it once and I'll keep saying it. Never fall for all these hype posts. Never fall for all these shill posts. And never fall for all these people talking about how great a certain thing is, how amazing this is, how rare it is. Because I could pick up a rock off of the street and tell you it's one of a kind, or some piece of garbage or a turd on the street and be like, you know what? This is the only one in the world and this is how much it's worth. And then if some idiot also comes out of nowhere and says, you know what? This turd is worth this much, then, it just builds onto the fact that, everyone's just trying to confirm their own beliefs. And as long as other people that, feel the same way surround them, then they're going to be constantly drumming up interest in these things. And it's very easy to fall into these traps, especially if you're someone that is not super knowledgeable about these markets. And you could end up getting suckered into buying some of these things where, again, down the line, it might not be as in demand as you think it is, and it might not be valued as much as you think it is right now. So thank you for watching, and just remember, at the end of the day, again, I'll keep saying it, collect what you enjoy, buy what you can afford. Do not ever spend beyond your means, especially if you're not financially established. Other than that, have a great day and have fun collecting. And thank you for everyone that's been liking the videos and subscribing. Again, I really, really, really appreciate it. Take care.